There's depression and then there's chronic. The chronic one means it almost never goes away. So chronically, you're battling your own mind. So I don't want to go out into the world and cause that battle for other people, because I know what it feels like to live in a mind and in a life where it feels like your own mind or your own brain is trying to kill you off.
So, Hermien, you know what I really love about you? Ever since I met you, I can't remember how many years ago, you are the most consistent person I know. You are consistently spreading light and love. How do you do that? Because I'm grumpy most of the time. How do you just, you think it's something you're just born with it? Or
I think, like many other things, like courage, all of those skills that can't be quantified but are qualitative, the soft skills, the being brave, being authentic. I think that just like a muscle and just like any other skill, that they can be developed.
okay.
Yes, I think I go out into the world intentionally not wanting to leave this place worse than I found it. And even if it's a little bit better. And I always think about, the Japanese, it's the World Cup right now. And if you've seen, there've been video clips of the Japanese,
The locker room.
Yeah, the audience, basically,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Japanese supporters,
Crowd.
the crowd, every single time after every single game, and this happened in the last World Cup as well, they pick up their rubbish afterwards. And and Namibians will be like, it's job employment, but they believe that it's just cultural for them to leave every place better than they found it. So they pick up their rubbish after every single match, even though there'll be people who are employed to clean up. So they take their rubbish with them and they take their nonsense with them. And I'm just like, let me always take my rubbish with me and leave the place and whether it's a place or a person, better than
And you are intentional about it.
I really am. I
You
really am. I really hope that at the end of my life, that every person who encountered me, and the thing is, it's never going to be foolproof because I'm just not for everyone, but that they at least don't feel worse for having encountered me. And the bigger wish is that they are better for having encountered me.
That is.
Yeah.
That is, that's like, I'm listening to you and I know what you're saying is so beautiful, it's so true. But in my heart of hearts, I know how difficult it is for me. because I'm just like, maybe it's short-man syndrome. I'm probably one of these people like, listen, I had a face. Yeah, when I show them, you understand what? How do you get to that place though?
So the first thing is, when you're saying excel for the vase, I always tell, when people say, but I'm going to show them. And I'm just going, and I always say, don't outsource, your life.
Oof.
Number one. So a lot of people will start a fitness journey to be like, I'm going to show them. And I'm just like, why are you outsourcing your motivation? Basically, it is you're doing whatever you're doing to show them. I want to prove to myself and to the people, I always say the people who have the front row seats in my life. This is my family, this is my friends, the people who really, really know me, the ones where I'm cut open, they know what's going on the inside. Those are the only people, and I'm not even showing them. I'm just, because they're in community with me, they get to witness it. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's that. But the other thing is also, it takes a lot of ego deaths, because at the end of the day, even I have an ego. We all have, if I drive out of here now, somebody cuts me off, your ego wants to, but then I'm like, I've just learned, and maybe this is from professional speaking, but the power of the pause, just to be like, who do I want to be in this moment and in this interaction? Because that person drives off, I don't know their name, they don't know me, but then I'm ruminating and having this whole battle in my mind about a stranger where I could just go on about my day and shake these things off. And the first thing I just want to mention is that I am no saint. I am messy. I make a lot of mistakes. I also recognize that I'm both light and dark, And somebody said, I'm only this gentle because of, it took a lot of violence to become this gentle.
Mm.
And I think that that's the case. And I think, later on if we do speak about or touch on just being neurodivergent already in a world where, I'm diagnosed with chronic depression and with ADHD. And chronic, and so there's depression and then there's chronic. The chronic one means it almost never goes away. So chronically, you're battling your own mind. So I don't want to go out into the world and cause that battle for other people, because I know what it feels like to live in a mind and in a life where it feels like your own mind or your own brain is trying to kill you off. So why go out and create any kind of distress if I already know what it feels like to be in distress?
I'm sitting here and I'm telling myself, I am not qualified to do this interview with you. Because you're scaring me. You're scaring me in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you're saying a lot of that stuff, it's all the little bombs going off, because you're saying so many things, and there's these bombs going off, and in my own mind, I'm just thinking like, is this without sounding smart, is this like a trauma response? These little bombs that are, I'm hearing all these things, and the first thing that comes to my mind is what Hermien is telling me today. That's not coming from an Ovambo household.
Well, it is. It is because, number one, for as many Ovambo people that are out there, there are Ovambo households. So no two Ovambo households look the same. I do, though, however...
No, but what I mean is that
culturally,
approach to how you're so beautifully articulating stuff.
Yeah.
Like we say,
Sure.
Yeah, you see, so that cannot have... Did it come? Was it encouraged from your household?
No.
That's exactly what.
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it was. And it's no fault of the elders or of my own parents, because the other thing is, when we spoke a little bit, behind the scenes about, why I believe Gen Z is the one that came to save us. But I'm a millennial and my parents are boomers. But remember, being Black boomers meant having grown up in a world where survival was the priority. And now it's not living. But I feel that or at least my generation, is the generation that gets to heal. Just because our parents could not. I mean, at which point, between everything that's going around and just trying to stay alive, do you have a moment to sit and say, now let me heal? They didn't even have access to it. They don't even have the language we have. So I have a lot of grace for my parents' generation and the generation that was based on survival, because if you don't have access to something, how can you it's not even a consideration. So even now, when I speak about mental health, I will have, my very own mother say, shh, don't, people are not going to want to work with you, all of those things. But that's because survival. If you speak about these things, you are going to be judged, and and the reputation. But now I get to live in a world where authenticity is what people are hungry for, because we're passing down all of these things and we're seeing it's not really working. Our parents are in distress. A lot of them, like my father, died from working so hard to try and break the cycles of poverty. So it's so deeply, deeply layered. So it definitely didn't come.
Let's break it down. So the other time I went to a therapist.
Yeah.
And occasionally I do go to a therapist at the behest of my wife.
Yes.
Because I'm that generation, like you say, we are
yes.
with the millennials who are like, get on with their life and stuff like that. And then she said something interesting to me. She said, if you look at a lot of Black businessmen and black professionals, especially male, she was specifically talking about males. She was saying, you guys are just floating. When are you going to land? Oof. And I was just like, wait a minute, come again. She said, I'm listening to you. And you are not landing. What are you hiding from? And I mean, I don't want to have like a theoretical discussion about this, but and I asked her, but what do you mean? She's like, it's almost like you are so occupied by a lot of challenges. Your body has so many challenges that you are basically, everything that you do is a trauma response, but you never get to confront it. And it speaks to basically what you were basically saying is like, it's just work.
And you let life stop you from living.
So, and we are definitely, and then it comes down to what you said. You are just in survival mode. When she said that, I said to her, no, I'm not in survival mode. It's like, let's have this conversation. We went, she said, tell me 3 things that you have done. And I told her, she said, survival.
Yeah.
And she's like, when are you going to live? When are you going to land? You know, because we have this thing that I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for my family. I have to do this for my children. And she asked me, when did they ask you to do that? When did your family say that you need to work 19 hours a day so that you can put them through school? When did they ever say that? She said, you assume that responsibility. At the end of the day, they just want daddy at home.
Whew.
She's like, that's when you, she said, when you can do that, that's when you have landed.
Firstly, I hope she is one of your guests in these conversations that you're having.
Oh, definitely.
Because wow.
Yeah.
And maybe just to add.
Yeah.
Because wow, that is slam dunk.
Yeah.
From Mrs. Jacobs right there.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, while you were saying that, I read a quote that said, don't let life stop you from living. And I think that is a big thing with our generation. But also with millennials is and because the times have changed. So I was still born in apartheid Namibia, but this is no longer apartheid Namibia. So
I was telling a previous guest that we were the last victims, physical victims of apartheid, the millennials.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think our survival, which wasn't the same as our parents, is different. And it's the survival of, it's almost like we have to prove ourselves. And we have to prove ourselves a lot more. I don't require that same from my daughter, but it seems to be required from the generations before us, but also because of what they went. I mean, they're like, I fought for you, and you hear these stories. My grandmother used to have to walk from Katutura all the way through to Ludwigsdorf and all of these things. I don't have to do all of those things. So it's almost like I have to prove that everything that they went through was not in vain. But that's something really heavy to carry. And it's almost like up until somebody grants us permission to say, you know what, you get to live. We died for this and we had to survive for this, but you get to live. But it's almost like that conversation didn't happen. And the conversation and as a result, what we've taken on is that survival now is we have to prove ourselves. So we're going to work 10 times harder. We're going to, build businesses, and I'm going to show you and all of this kind of stuff. And so we're overworked, we're exhausted, we're tired. And so the very healing that we have access to, we can't even step into because we've somehow taken on this generational thing of survival, and I see it with a lot of the, I'll say it like my white counterparts. They don't have to deal with anything. I was speaking to one of my friends. It's a white older man, maybe like in his 50s. And he said, you know what's really, really interesting? Because I remember growing up, like, the nannies that we used to have at home, they'd always say things to you like, oh, shinona, and only because, they were taught that that's the right way to raise a child. You almost have to beat them into submission. And they said, like, as children, and this is a white person, that you were told from the moment you're born that you're the center of the universe. So when they step into the workplace and the conversation of, what is your salary expectation? They come from, I'm the center of the universe. So they come here, and a lot of my black counterparts and peers that I speak to, we are very like, just give me what you can, because we're still, it's our parents' mindset. I'll take whatever you can give me. I'm really grateful for it. We don't come in with the center of the universe. And I'm not saying that we should either, but isn't there a place in between?
Some middle ground somewhere.
Some middle ground
a meeting point
that says, that says
It's okay.
I'm here and I have been allowed into the space or into this because as much as I need you, you need me too. And so let's operate like that. But we are very, and you know,
Apologetic.
and self-flagellate, whipping ourselves on the back
Right.
because we think that there's some badge of honor
Mm.
for overworking and for
We
being
brag about it.
being
even.
the most humble, the
Mm.
most what, and you know, the most humble for what?
Mm.
You know, and the best description I even got of humility is knowing exactly who you are. That's humility. False humility is I'm nothing and I'm no one. But real humility is this is who I am. And, you know, I'm above no one, I'm beneath no one. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm listening to all of the stuff that you're saying, and and one recurring theme in what you're educating me about is the sense of self-worth. It's almost like this is the Gen Z. They look up to us. So here's the thing: the Gen Z look up to us because of so-called material prosperity.
Yes.
But they don't know the wounds, they don't understand the wounds we carry for this false sense of material prosperity. Now, what you said about your our white counterparts who are made the center of the universe and things like that. I had a conversation just yesterday. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, an Afrikaner gentleman, and every time I have a conversation with him, he likes to bring up the topic of apartheid because I think it's also his way of trying to process some of these things. And he said to me, Laz, and he basically said the same thing to me. He said, every time I talk to you about something, it's almost like you are almost like apologetic about your achievement. Why is that? And I never thought about it. And I said to him, look, our worlds are different. And he said, explain to me. And I said, let me explain it to you. Like I said, I'm a 70s baby. So I was born in a blacks only hospital. Okay. My doctor was a white doctor. So, and I stayed in a blacks only neighborhood. The superintendent of that location is a white guy. I went to a blacks only primary school. The principal of that primary school is a white guy. Went to a blacks only high school. The principal of that school is a white guy. I started working in an integrated job environment, but my supervisor is a white guy. So when you go to university, chances are the rector of that university is a white guy. The black people that you see there are the cleaners and the drivers. You start working for a corporate environment, your supervisor is a white guy. The only black people that you see there who are working there are the cleaners and the drivers. Or maybe a clerk.
Yes.
You follow? So our sense of now just suppose it with a white kid. Because this white kid, he's born in a white hospital. The only black people that you see there are the cleaners at the hospital. The primary school, the
You're
same.
being served.
The domestic worker. He goes to university. So our sense of reality is totally different. Like you said, he is brought up to feel like he's the center of the universe because there's a physical manifestation of that center of the universe. There are people catering to you all the time. For me, I'm like, oh, sorry, Buzz. You understand what I mean? So that has some kind of psychological effect on us.
It does. It has a huge psychological effect, and it's and this is why. So the facilitation and the professional speaking work that I do, it mainly lies in DEI, and that is because and it's a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's in its infancy stages in Namibian corporates because number one, Namibians, we are known as, but they're so friendly and we're so nice, and the second you bring up certain things, even a conversation like this, people will be like, please don't do that. we don't have those kind of issues in Namibia. But South Africa didn't have them too up until the uprising started. The Fees Must Fall started, I think that was 2014. Was it 2014? So Fees Must Fall was like 10 years ago. And that is when a lot of conversations started. And so these conversations only start because you sweep things under the carpet enough. And eventually that carpet's going to explode. So that's the first thing. And this is why DEI is so important, because representation matters. If you don't see you in certain places, and this is why it's so important that Black boys can see people like you who are building stuff, who are doing things, you're employing people, you're making a difference so that they can see. Because for as long as I cannot see myself in spaces, I can't place myself there. And you can't work towards something where you cannot see yourself being. And the only way we can see ourselves is to see those who look like us and are like us in those particular places. And unfortunately for us, because we come after the generation that was, surviving, a lot of us didn't have that. And it's slowly starting to change, which is wonderful. The second thing I wanted to say was, and I know this is maybe going to be controversial, and my friends always call me, you're Switzerland, because I'm so diplomatic about saying everything, but, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but I honestly believe that as Black people, we have to decenter our parents' voices in our heads. And I know...
Talk to me about that.
And I know it's rough. And I know...
What do you mean by decenter the voices?
So
stop hearing Meme saying.
Also, we've placed our parents in this position.
Oh, you mean decenter? Okay.
Yeah, just a decenter them. And I think it's so important, and maybe this might be a hot take too, but I think you need to center yourself in your lived experiences. So I think what happened with a lot of millennials is we centered our parents. We held them. It was like God, our parents, and then, and even there's enough scripture will say, honor your parents above all else, and you everywhere you get told, and it's more Black people and Black children than white children or any other race is, your parents are above all else, and I even remember my mom would always say to me, I'm always right. So this happens. And I had to learn to decenter, especially the voice of my mother, because number one, she's absolutely phenomenal. She's done a lot of things, and made a lot of differences in so many places. But I've also had my experiences with her where I need to realize, number one, she's human, and that multiple things can be true at the same time. She's absolutely amazing. She is... but she's also human, and a lot of the decisions she made were out of survival. And so as a result, they weren't always for my greatest good. But she meant well. She meant well. That's the most important part. And you can only do the best with what it is that you have. And this is why I think therapy is so important, so that we can process these things. And so when I make decisions, I need to make sure that the voices, because for some people it's the pastor's voice, the what. I've decentered the voices of pastors a very long time ago. You have to, and I have to be like, what is it that I need to know? And what is actually very, very true for me? And what's true for me might not be what my mother thinks should be true for me, or my father, or my aunts. And with Black people, because of the way that we're raised and our spaces, you don't only have your mother. Every single elder has almost been granted permission to speak into your life. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't care if you're my aunt from where or who from where, you earn the right to speak into my life when you win my heart over.
How do we then as Africans?
Yes.
How do we then do that without sounding disrespectful?
Then this is where I would say that, have you ever seen somebody who sets boundaries without even saying a word? There are some people you will never cross, even though they never raise their voice. They don't even say a thing. It is because of who they are when they are in a space. It's that whole thing about presence, about how, when it's not just what you say when you're in a boardroom. And I know you're in plenty of boardrooms. It's who you are in the space. And there's some people when they just walk into a space, I don't know, it's almost like the atmosphere shifts. I think that the way to do that without disrespect is you don't have to use words. You basically, and the craziest thing is I've had to set boundaries with my own mother, because she'll be like, did you do this and did you do that? And I have to remember, I'm a 43-year-old woman, number one, because I'm still like, when she calls, I'm like, and then I have to remind myself, you're an adult. You're not in trouble.
Sure.
You're no longer in trouble, and so it's just a matter of telling her that, like, this is actually what I'm doing. This is why I've made the decision, and I'm going to keep going forward with it. And then I have to reset the boundary, and she'll be like, you must do this, or you must do it this way. Or I'm just like, why don't I try do it this way? And if I do make a mistake, I will fix it. I won't bring it back to you. I'm not a child anymore.
But then she will say, I'm helping you.
Yes. And then I will say, and
helping you in terms of the sense of I'm parenting you.
Absolutely.
So you dare not challenge.
Absolutely.
Because look how far you've come. It's me who brought you there with my parenting.
I know. And I am grateful for the assistance, but I am going to challenge it because I also need to figure out my life and have my life experience. And you would think that the relationship would decay, but I feel, and especially looking at the past year, that my relationship with my mother is even stronger because of the boundaries that I have set with her. Because before it was this thing of, running away. If she phones you, you're not even answering the phone, all of this kind of stuff, or like, creating distance. But now I'm like, I actually want you close to me because you're my mother. Like, you're the first person I experienced when I came onto this earth. But it needs to be in a way that is healthy for me and that feels safe for me. And so, and it's that whole thing of like, sometimes our own parents, they're human. And this is why that decentering thing is so important. You're another human being. And so in the same way where I said earlier, like, I'm above no one, I'm beneath no one when it comes to workplaces and every other space, it's the same with my own parents. It's the same with my own family. My mother can't be above me either. And she's definitely not beneath me. And I'm not saying that she is I will listen to her with great respect and with great honor, but this is my life. And as much as it's her first rodeo, it's also my first rodeo. So let me also make my mistakes.
So you're taking it as I'm taking control and ownership of my own life. And I don't need necessarily your parenting anymore.
I would say I welcome your parenting and I really do appreciate it.
But the discretion is still mine.
But the discretion at the end of the day is still mine because the life at the end of the day is still mine. There's that, I think it's a poem by Khalil Gibran where he speaks about, where our children, our children are, I think he speaks something along the lines of our children don't belong to us, and people belong to themselves, Laz, at the end of the day. Even I belong to myself.
So here's the thing. Now, is it true? Is it your experience that sometimes, not sometimes, you get to a point, there are almost two transitional phases. One is the fact that when you start realizing, wait a minute, my parents did me wrong. And then you get to a point and you say, okay, I forgive them. Do you experience the same thing?
I did. So I used to be very angry with my mother. My parents, because they're both poverty cycle breakers, my father only had grade 7, my mom only had grade 8. So none of them completed grade 12 because they were both the eldest in their family. So my mother dropped out of school so that she could go to nursing school and then start working to help with raising to help her parents raise her siblings. And my father, he was a goat herder in the north, walked from there, and he went into construction. So neither of them had a strong educational base. And so what happens when you don't have something and you have children? Formal. Thank you. Formal education. So what happens when you have children and you didn't have a certain thing? It then becomes a core value. So a really high value for us when my parents had the 4 of us, me and my 3 siblings, was education. And so
they emphasized it.
They emphasized
because they
it.
understood the value of
it. Because they didn't have it, they knew what life is without it. And they also have seen what it means by seeing other people who have it. And it's the world that we live in. And so when I was 5.5, my parents sent me to boarding school in Cape Town. Yeah.
Wait, come again?
5.5. They sent me
5 years old.
Yes.
Boarding school.
Yes. In Cape Town. And
I didn't even know they had boarding schools for 5-year-olds.
So the school that I went to, it's at the foot of Table Mountain. They have now stopped it. It's a school called St. Cyprian's. They've now stopped it, and it's only from grade 8. And that's because of experiences with children like me. Because what happened when I was sent to boarding school, so like literally my parents would drive me to the airport, and then, they'd put that sign around you that says unaccompanied minor. And I'm so glad that it wasn't in the years of like heavy human trafficking. So you hand me over to an air hostess, and then the school picks me up from the airport. And so that was my commute every single semester. And so a lot of the kids who were boarding school kids who were like similar to me in age, because they stayed in Cape Town, they would go home. And I would almost be alone, just walking those corridors by myself. And so as a result, I have the childhood wounds of, number one, fear of abandonment and fear of rejection. And that stuff comes out to play even in the workplace. And the thing, people look at colleagues and they're like, what is wrong with that person? And there's that book that Oprah and that other neuroscientist wrote. And my question is always, what happened to that person? People only act out based on that. But luckily, we also have the opportunity to fix those things, like, those wounds. Yeah, those wounds. And everybody has some kind of a wound.
So how long were you in this boarding school for?
I was there all the way until grade 12. I only came back to Namibia for 1 year. And that was my grade 5 year, but then I went back again. So all the way through. And so as a result, because of that fear of rejection and fear of abandonment, you start to act out, So in grade 10, I started smoking. In grade 11, and this is because it's Cape Town and kids will find a way, I was dabbling in drugs like ecstasy and cocaine. Because remember, you also, the school that they sent me to is a very elite private boarding school. So for the majority of my school, there were one or two. In the beginning, I was the only black child. And then from there, it was just, peppering of black children. And so you dabble in stuff because, and this is just because you're seeking attention. You're trying to fill this gap. You're trying to heal this wound. And instead of like sitting with our wounds, we must go out and look for all sorts of things,
outlets.
Yeah, all sorts of outlets. So I dabbled a bit in that. And then, it's all sorts of things, Laz. And then it's drinking. And then it's boys. And then it's all of these things that can't fix anything. And then I obviously came to the point, you start to realize that like, you're going to have to figure this out. Because even if it feels like your parents were the reasons that you carry, they call them mother wounds and father wounds. Even if your parents are the ones that you feel or believe, are the reason for the wounding, you have to be the reason for the healing. Because also, once again, my parents were doing the very best with
so in
with
their
what
mind,
they had.
they felt they're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
By sending you to boarding school
Yes,
at the age of 5.
Exactly.
I have a 6-year-old daughter. And I would not even send her to the living room from the bedroom to the living. You know what I mean?
I understand. But that's also because you didn't live a life where you had to drop out of school at grade 7 in order to start working construction, in order just to eat. You didn't have
My father did that.
Your father did that.
Yeah.
And because your father did that, you don't have to do that. But we're doing things also that might not be the best for our children.
So who are we to judge?
So that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So my father always said, no, my mama actually said this. And I'm loosely translated. She always used to say to us, because, when you get older and you're trying to, a little bit better, and you're trying to challenge your mom or your dad about something. And Mama always used to say to us, we made decisions based on the information we have at the time.
That's it.
When she said that, I stopped criticizing.
Exactly.
She's like, whatever decision I made, remember it was based on the information I had at the time. And it was always in your best interest.
Yes.
She always said that to me because she was like, as a mother, I could never I could never make a decision consciously that's going to hurt you. Unless, see what the exception?
Yes.
If I want to spank you, if I want to punish you for
Yes.
something, because parents believe in corporal punishment.
Yes.
But she said, even when I'm doing that, it's in your best interest. So I'm trying to teach you a lesson.
Mm.
So, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and it's, you said it so beautifully when you said, they did it because they said, probably, let's get her a great education from the word go.
Yes.
So let's send her to this boarding school.
Exactly.
So she can get from grade 1 or, pre-primary school. She's in the best. But they are not thinking, we are sending this child away at this age.
Yeah, they weren't. And the thing is, and because they didn't have the language of like therapy and psychology, and I mean, we've got the world in our fingertips on this one device. They didn't even have the device to begin with. And so we understand a lot of things like self-regulation, that a child needs their parents, that they need to, the reason why a lot of parents now don't beat their children is because they realize that beating your child just shows that you don't know how to regulate yourself. And the fastest way is to let me inflict pain to get you back in order. But now we've learned, like, you can talk to a child. Like, you're telling like, we've learned a lot of things. They didn't have the language for this. They didn't have the foresight to know. We know that any action that I do towards my child right now, it's being woven into their subconscious when they're younger than 7, when they're older than 7, it's forming their worldview. So everything that I do is impacted. No, it's just a matter of right now, in this moment, what can I do? And yeah.
So like given that particular, you said something that actually was triggered something about my mom, and I lost my mom in January this year, and
I'm sorry.
she was 87. No, thank you. Because I always say that our relationship was empty. By the time my mom passes on, we have spoken about everything. We have you follow what I mean? It's one of those those issues where you start realizing, wait a minute, you are older, so start getting as much information out of your mother as possible, so that you can learn from her. So by the time my mom passed, she was 87. That was a blessing. It's still painful to lose her, but because it's the end of your life the way you know it.
Yes.
You follow, and it's one of those things you say to somebody that I'll always have my mother's wisdom. I'll always have her smile. I'll always have all of that. But once she's passed on, the one thing I'll always not have from her is something new. And that's the cruelty of death.
Yeah.
The fact that there's nothing new. Now, if you look at my mom, the thing that triggered me was, my mom was a nurse, right? She was a qualified nurse at the time in the 60s already. And she was from Olukonda, and she, not only that, she was one of the first black female, two black women who in the 60s already who had a teaching certificate and a nursing certificate, and that's huge. And my father was just a farm laborer. But it was very interesting to see how, I always ask my father, how did this power dynamic work? Like, because you have this lady that's earning more money than you.
Yeah.
Not only that, she's more qualified than you, but you married her. And in the Wambo culture, in many African traditions, it's almost a taboo. Yeah, this is because the woman is always the one that stays at home and does all, and the man is the provider.
Yeah.
But you have this issue where the man is.
There will always be outliers. There will always be the exceptions to the rules.
Okay. Very true. So, in your parents' case, did you witness that?
In my parents' case, I didn't really witness that, but where I did get to see it was that because my mom was the one who had the nursing certification, and she had gone to and I think my father even taught himself how to write. So you can and it's interesting, and I see that same disparity. But what ended up happening was, it's almost like she was more the spokesperson for their union than. Because my father didn't have the confidence to always generally speak, because he didn't have formal education when it came to speaking English and Afrikaans. And so he lent very heavily in Oshiwambo. But as a businessman then, that was fine. You know, you weren't really required to be articulate. And now the competition is so dangerous that you have to be articulate and eloquent and all of these other things. But it wasn't required as much. What was required then was almost that bull strength just to go charge and do whatever it is that you needed to do. But I think what I wanted to say there is it was more of a this is what I wanted to say was my brother went to Clifton, which was in KwaZulu-Natal, and then he went to Bishops in Cape Town. But when he was at Clifton, my father had to fly down, you know, those parent teacher whatever things. So my dad flew down, and the principal was like, you know, saying all of these things about your son, this and this, and then he goes, "What do you think, Mr. Elago?" And then my father looked at my brother and he goes, "Mika, Toroka," like as in. I mean,
translate.
And I mean, this is the level I'm talking about, that my parents got all of their children into these really elite schools, even though my father didn't even have the confidence to talk to the teachers and the parents there. And so it's this life, this human experience is so deeply nuanced. It's so layered.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about. Although I'm probably one of those people, like maybe it's because once again millennial. I don't like to label things.
Yeah.
And because we've been labeled all our lives, you know, apartheid and the K word, whatever. But one of the things that we always laugh about, and I actually stopped laughing about it 5 years ago. But before they used to laugh, it's about how this Gen Z like to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Like, due to my mental health, I cannot do this.
I love it.
This environment is not good for my mental health. And we were, look, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm saying that's how we used to make fun of.
Yes.
And then it's almost like, and I'm sure you've heard this so many times, like, Black people could not afford to have mental health.
Mm.
You have to get on with your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
It's almost like, what do you mean you're not feeling yourself?
Yeah, be strong.
What?
Pull yourself together and go back out there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like, what do you mean you have mental? So the first time one of our colleagues came to me, it's like, they are in a position now, they need to go, the campaign we are working on is affecting their mental health. So they need to take 2 days off. I was livid. I'm like, we have a deadline on Friday. We need to do this presentation. What do you mean it's affecting your mental health? To me, mental health to us was, you are crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was a label. And also, and people who were considered so-called crazy in the township where we grew up, those are people we used to ridicule. That's my experience. Like, there goes Thomas. You know, it's crazy. You know, and we come up with derogatory words for them. So almost having a mental health, if you suffer from mental health, it was almost seen like a form of weakness.
Yes.
Because you're not strong enough.
Yeah.
Do you think, what is your experience? Because I'm sure you're working a lot in mental health.
Yes.
And you're doing counseling and things.
Yeah.
Has that narrative changed in our country?
I think it's shifting.
It's shifting.
I think
positively.
I think it is shifting, and I think it is shifting positively. But just like any kind of shift, the pendulum almost swings. When the pendulum was on one side for a long time, it almost swings really hard
right
to the other side, and then we find that balance.
News doesn't stand still. Neither do we. The Windhoek Observer has evolved. We've moved beyond print and into the world where news lives today. Digital, immediate, connected. Every day, we bring you the stories behind the headlines, the ideas shaping our country, the voices that deserve to be heard. Politics, business, culture, society, sport, and the conversations that matter to Namibia. Read us online, follow us across social media, and every morning, 7 days a week, receive the full digital edition directly on your phone through the Observer WhatsApp channel. Because journalism must evolve with its audience. And we intend to be there, wherever you are, whenever you need us. Windhoek Observer, a modern newspaper for a changing Namibia. Visit observer.com.na. Follow the conversation. Stay informed.
We find that balance. So the first thing I would say is for people who are neurodivergent and people with mental illness, and I'm going to use the word illness rather because we all have physical health.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
And not everybody is physically ill. We don't all have cancer. We don't all have, and so there is a distinction. We all have mental health, but we don't all have mental illness. So in this conversation, for example, is because I'm diagnosed with chronic depression and ADHD, I've got mental illness. You have mental health, but mental health varies. Sometimes your mental health is, it's in a dangerous place. Just like when your body starts having migraines and all of that kind of stuff, you might not be physically ill, but it could start leading to blood pressure and all of those stuff. And then you've got physical illness. And it's the same with mental health. Like if you don't take care of it, because it's a shifting thing and it requires a lot of different things, its environments and all of that, it can lead to temporary states of mental illness or just mental illness in and of itself. So there's situational depression where, for example, when somebody loses a loved one, and this one we can all understand. And for a time period after that, you can enter into a state of depression or into a state
There's always a way of mourning.
Yes. So you're mourning and you're grieving. And for some people, they literally do go into depression. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, I want to lean into the example that you presented about your colleague and, that happening. And you're like, this is so important. But at the end of the day, I wish we could be AI in the workplace, but we're not. We're human beings. And we handle pressure differently. There's a lot of people who have undiagnosed mental illnesses. There are people in the workplaces that you walk in with, and they've got depression that is undiagnosed. And so these people are white-knuckling it, and they're thugging it out. And they deserve a medal almost because depression, for example, it's so real. The unfortunate thing is it requires being believed, and it requires being believed by people who have deadlines, and this needs to be done, so it's really, really tricky because people can take advantage of that. Because if I come in with a broken leg, you'll just be like, go home, what are you doing here? If I come in and say the doctor's diagnosed me with cancer, you'll be like, take the week off. If I come in and say I've been diagnosed with depression, most people are like, oh gosh, just pull it together.
Wow.
And when I had
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. This is the last thing, and then
sure.
But I spoke to a psychiatrist based in South Africa when I first got my diagnosis, just to kind of like understand it and to rumble with. So what is chronic depression? Does it mean I'm just eternally sad? And as I was having this conversation with this psychiatrist, they said a really interesting thing, and they said that we'll take the heart as an example. That we understand what the heart does in the human body, the way that it beats blood and it sends it around. All of us, we understand. We were even taught in school. It's not a difficult thing. So when one of your colleagues comes and they say, I've got cardiac issues or cardiac failure or this and this is happening, everybody has empathy and compassion, and everybody understands immediately because we get it. The language is there, the school, like everything. The world has created enough education around it for us to access empathy. So even if that deadline has to be, you have all the empathy in the world,
we'll make another
we will shift. We will make it. We will shift.
Even if we have to move the deadline.
Even if you yourself will be like, you know what, I'll sit up until midnight, but we'll get it done. Don't you worry. Now, so the heart, we know what it's responsible for. Here, now the brain, it's responsible for how you connect with others. It's responsible for your worldview. It's responsible for how you make rational decisions. It's responsible for your thinking. It's literally responsible for how you see the world. And when somebody comes and they say, I have, basically instead of heart failure, I've got brain failure. Our first thing is to sigh, or you're slowing us down, get it together, just be strong. And we're asking them to white knuckle it out. when there is no difference between the person who comes in and says cardiac failure and the person who comes in and says chronic depression, bipolar, etc., etc. They're both having a battle. It's just that we understand this battle because there's language for it. We've just created enough empathy around it to have the empathy. Because if I was HR and somebody says cardiac, I would even be like, take 3 months off immediately. And people with mental illness do not get the same. And so what happens is, as human beings, it's like being sent off to boarding school at the age of 5. You act out, and
I'm listening to it, and I feel so guilty. I do not only feel guilty, I am guilty. Because I think you nailed it, that when it comes to physical challenges, we learn about it in school. We know, like you said, I mean, somebody come in, if one of my colleagues here said that we can't do the shoot 3 o'clock this afternoon because I have cardiac issues, I'll be like, guys, we move it to Monday.
exactly.
But if it is like, I'm not mentally okay, I'll be like, okay, can you at least come in for an hour?
Yes.
Yo,
Placing even greater pressure on somebody who's ill.
that's even the worst thing that you can do.
Yes. And the person is already, and so when somebody, it's not even I'm feeling down, it's I'm ill.
Like, I can't anymore.
I literally, and you can't.
It's something like he's got a broken leg.
Yes.
It's like, can you just walk
Yes.
another kilometer?
And the worst part is, maybe with a broken leg, I could still pull off something. But we're talking about a brain that is quote unquote, because I'm not going to use the word broken, but we're talking about a brain that is not healthy. And this is the brain that is required to think, to create, make rational decisions, connect with others, all of that kind of stuff. At least my leg, I can still drag it. But my brain is, it's the operating system. And that is what is under attack.
And that operating system has
Yeah.
a virus.
And then I
If
just
you
want
wanna
to
do it.
throw one more thing at you, and it's not for you per se, but for people who do employ other people, and almost to a degree have a responsibility to the well-being of the people, because what did they say it? The law of the lid. Generally what the lid does, that's where we'll grow to. But I think it's not even about being guilty. It's about awareness. When we talk about race, it's not about, no one wants white people to feel guilty. It's about awareness. It's about understanding the past that we come from, and as a result, why we show up, why it is that we say, it's okay, give me what you want, versus somebody who's been told that there's this center of the universe. It's all of those same things. It's really about awareness. And I was reading something recently that said, I don't want to let a few selfish people stop me from being empathetic and compassionate to everyone. Some people do take advantage, but people take advantage anyway. A very healthy person can still find a way to not be at work on Friday.
Yeah,
They can still find a way.
yeah, we're not addressing that.
We're not addressing that.
So-
It's understanding that just...
So let's say Dapandula come to me on Monday.
Yes.
She says, I am diagnosed with chronic depression. What do I do? What must I do? What do you recommend I do?
I think listen.
Okay.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's listen. And it is because I think if Ndapindula says, I've been diagnosed with chronic depression, there's either more to be said, or it's just to let you know that...
She's putting me on notice.
Or just to let you know that should, things become things, that just to be aware. So usually even somebody who's diagnosed with cancer, it's not like, okay, and so I'm taking leave now. It is,
like, just
should
so you-
things become things,
You
I
must know.
might need to go to the hospital, or I might need a day off because it's a bit difficult. So I know that there's a couple of companies. There is one medical company. I think I know the name, but I'm always wary about saying names on public anythings. But
Yeah, we don't have to mention it.
yeah. So it's a medical company, and what they have is something called Pillow Days. And I think it's every quarter or every year. It is 7 days where anyone who has been you know how you have compassionate leave?
Yeah.
I think it's like 5 to 10 days. So anyone who has, and there's a diagnosis, you know, you can't even just take advantage. In order to be diagnosed with something like chronic depression or ADHD, it's not just I went to the therapist, I came back, here's the letter. You know, there's testing that has to be done. There is medications. It's a lot. So in order for me to even present you with that letter, it means that I've already gone through
Sure.
having to prove that this is the situation. But what they've done is, so it's basically like compassionately, they've got something called pillow days, where anyone in their team who's not neurodivergent or, you know, battles with depression or whatever it is, gets to call in and say, I'm taking a pillow day, and it's a no questions asked day. And I think it's capped. I think it's like to 5 to 7 every half of the year or something along those lines, so that the person doesn't have to explain what it is that's going on. They don't have to re-traumatize themselves by saying, yo, depression, this and this and this. So, you know, it's 6 months, 7 days. And they noted that because they have that in place, most people don't even use it. But just knowing that the place that I work at understands and gets it is enough. And most people don't even use it.
So from listening comes empathy.
Yes.
And that's what people most need, is basically just empathy.
Yeah.
So I remember somebody telling me one day, it was a colleague who used to work for us, and she thought maybe I was a bit dismissive about her mental illness, because she was bipolar. And one day she cornered me in my office. She's like, I really need to talk to you. And I said, what's up? And she said to me, look, do you know what courage it took me to come and tell you that I have a mental illness? Knowing, and here's the thing, here's where she dropped the bomb. She said, knowing that you have zero empathy because you don't understand what I'm going through.
Sure.
You see? And I was like, she's like, it takes a lot of courage. She said, I have a lot of battles to fight already. Please don't let this be one of them. I did not. I said to her, what do you want me to do? She said, I just wanted you to know. And you are so 100% right.
Yeah.
And I said, but take the day off. And she's like, are you going to tell me that every time? She said, I will know when I need the day off. I'll tell you.
Yes.
I don't need you to tell me.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed. She's like, no. I don't need a day off today. Because when she told me that out of guilt, I was like, okay, no, it's okay. You can go home. She's like, no, I'm fine today.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll work until 9 o'clock this evening. But if I call in that day and I say, I can't come in, don't ask me questions. Yeah. So she put me on notice.
Yes. Absolutely.
You see?
And she's absolutely right on the first thing, that it does take a lot of courage in a country. Mental illness in this country is deeply stigmatized. Deeply stigmatized. You know, people hear depression, they're like, oh, that one's going to run down the street. It's just that, you know, that lack of...
But isn't it a lack of knowledge also? I think
it's lack of knowledge.
Like you say, we know about cardiac issues and whatever,
Yes.
but this particular issue
Absolutely. If you look at HIV, for example, when in those 90s and early 2000s, the campaigns were so hard. You couldn't look this way without seeing some kind of messaging about, you know, ABC, this, condomize, abstain. You couldn't look anywhere. And
COVID. You're even going far. COVID.
Exactly. And so what happened as a result? The infection rate for HIV, it plummeted.
And the awareness went up.
And awareness went up. And it's kind of the same. But and so when somebody like your colleague is brave enough to, if you shut them down, they will never speak again. And so we lose one more voice that could be creating awareness when we silence them by saying, just be strong.
Just be strong. So what will you tell a man or a woman who has mental illness that they are aware of, but they are scared to tell, say, their employer, or even, let's not do this a business or an employment relationship, just a friend even. How must they go about that?
Okay. So maybe I would like to address the employer one and also the friend one.
Okay.
I say, and you know, when we before when we had a chat about this, you said, it's going to be a raw and it's going to be a real conversation.
Yes.
And I'm going to be very real.
Please.
And that is not every workplace is a safe place, unfortunately. And as a head of a workplace, it's difficult for me to say that because, you don't want to make anyone feel some type of way, but it's not even to you. It is literally all of Namibia. Not every workplace is a safe place. I've spoken to people who work in these, those companies where you walk in and you're like, wow, I really wish I could, they're giving that Google pool table atmosphere, but that's just atmosphere. And that's just vibes. What really matters is when I walk into this place, do I feel safe? Do I feel heard? Do I feel valued? And there are people so people always ask me, should I disclose my diagnosis to HR or to leadership or whatever? And I always tell people, honestly, your workplace. And if it doesn't feel safe to, I honestly, and
don't do it because it's going to be more painful.
Don't do it because I know people whose contracts all of a sudden came to an end, or you treated differently, or all of that pressure that happens where people now try to get you out because it's like, you're going to slow us down. You're going to, because we don't have time to try and understand and figure this out. We've got campaigns and they need to come to an end. So my first thing is people need to trust what they believe and know about their own workplaces. And the thing is, sometimes leadership is safe, HR is not. Sometimes HR is safe, sometimes your colleagues aren't. There is no answer for that. So I always tell people, look, I know what it feels like to be depressed. And there was a period in 2024 where for 7 months, I battled it out with suicidal ideation every single day. And so because I'm self-employed, it meant 7 months of little to no income because I'm here fighting for my life. So I know what it feels like to be depressed, but there's one thing worse than being depressed. It's being depressed and broke. It's being depressed and broke. And so because I know the world we live in, because I understand capitalism, because I understand workplaces, is I can't say go and disclose and then you lose your job. And now you've got a new battle on top of the battle that you're already having. So when it comes to the workplace, know your workplace, know that if you are to, and there are a lot of, in the same vein as not every workplace is safe, there are amazing, incredible workplaces in Namibia who are run by people who are human-centered, who understand that it's not the brick and the mortar that is creating everything. It's your people. So there are amazing workplaces, absolutely amazing ones. And for those ones, I would say, by all means, yes. Because then, there are some workplaces that they have, psychologists on call. They've got, how can we support you? There's even one workplace where when they were retrenching people, they first of all brought a psychologist on board so that people could process what this meant. But they also said, they helped people apply for new jobs and made sure that they gave them strong recommendations. So and this is in Namibia, by the way, what I just explained, there is an actual company that does that when they retrenched. They bring in psychologists to make sure that everybody understands and that they can process, but then they completely back them up in finding a new job.
So, okay, now let's get to the personal.
To the personal one, I would say, I would question why you're questioning being able to disclose to the people who are in the front seat of your life.
Wow,
then maybe the front row, maybe the front row should not be the front row.
Wow.
Because I feel like, the front row are the people that you can come to and
those
be
are
like,
my soldiers.
like, guys, I lied to my oh, guys, I messed up.
Oh, guys, I'm broke.
Exactly. Or guys, I'm broke. And with them not being like, whoa, So
you must have the confidence that if that front row people are the people they should be the first ones to.
So that shouldn't even be a discussion. It should, and if it is a discussion, I would reconsider who you're calling friends.
This is going to be,
it's
going to call a lot of friendships into questions here.
Absolutely.
Into question. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was watching this interview where the person said, the people in they didn't say the front row of your life, but the people who are closest to you are the people you should actually be able to be like, Guys, I lied. I told a big fat lie to my husband or my wife, and they should be able to be like, okay, that sucks.
Yeah,
Let's rumble.
my friend Neville
Yes.
is that to me. You know,
Yeah.
we always have
Yeah.
this joke that
Mm.
we will take each other's stuff to the grave,
Yes.
because he's the person I am very vulnerable to,
Yes.
and I think I'm also the person he's very vulnerable
Yeah.
to. And what you basically said now is it's so profound, and it's making me question. Like I said, I'm not very big into these labels, even as a so-called employer.
Yeah.
Okay, what 3 things I can do to be a better team leader? I don't want to call myself a boss. A better team leader when it comes to mental illness.
Okay. I think that, and this is with, this is a whole different, I was speaking to a CEO of a media company, and when we had the conversation, it's like, but what if people take advantage? Why are you employing people, or why are you having teams where you can't trust? So I would say, number one, believe your people. And this is for any employer. You have to believe people. And when it comes to mental health, unfortunately, and mental illness, it's trust. At the end of the day, it's trust. The second thing that I would say is, it's not about pity and it's not about guilt, because everybody wants to feel empowered, right? So even if I come to you and say, wow, I'm having a really difficult financial thing, it's not for you to be like, oh, shame, like how can, it's to, what I want is like long-term solutions. Like, okay, so this is your skill. I'm going to help you, figure out a way to catch fish, not give me a fish. So that's the second thing is, don't go into guilt. Don't go into that place. Go into a place of empowerment and be like, so how best can we support you? But there's something in DEI called reasonable accommodations, because at the end of the day, you are running a company. So there's two sides to this. There is a bottom line. There are clients who are expecting deliverables. There are people who are expecting, and obviously if we all sit and go kumbaya, then salaries can't be paid. We might as well shut it down and turn it into a hippie festival, which it's not. It's a company at the end of the day. So it's something called reasonable accommodations, where this is what we can do, but then to a certain degree, it's some stuff needs to be outsourced. Maybe it is psychologists and all of that kind of stuff, because it is, the business does have a certain thing. And so to following that second one that I wrote to get onto this one is, let your policy speak. Let your policy speak. So don't wait, because what happens is a lot of people wait for impact,
So be proactive.
Exactly. So be proactive and be like, what is that? So what is to happen? Already have those scenarios in play. And be like, what if you hire somebody with a visual impairment? Would they be able to work? And they're brilliant at what they do. What if you hire somebody who's in a wheelchair? Is the place wheelchair accessible? Would they be able to access every single place in this place? Okay, and then somebody with a mental illness, if somebody is chronically depressed, what are we going to incorporate? Like, for example, the pillow days. Is there a way of having a retainer with a psychologist who comes in once a week, and it's an open door where they're able, it's be proactive. And this is why, I did 2 race workshops in South Africa, and both of those came off of an incident that happened. It's either a black girl, something happened with her hair, and then all the girls went on strike. Why are you waiting for impact to happen and not, So already when a colleague comes, the company should know what to do already. So I would say that be proactive and just be like, okay. And if it never happens, fantastic. But should it happen,
just have safeguards.
And be like, okay, fantastic. Do we need to link you with a psychologist? Do you need some time off? Do you need to go to, there's places like Okongwari or whatever it is, or whatever it is. And then, so that way, there is no favoritism. That way, it's reasonable.
policy,
and it's
policy.
and it's
there,
built
and
in.
there are guidelines that are built in.
Exactly. Like there's guidelines around if somebody beats you in the workplace right now, they're fired immediately. Okay, so what happens if somebody has a mental breakdown in the workplace? Like how do we do we have a strategy for that already? So remember the company that I told you about earlier? Where I told you, when they retrench people, they bring psychologists in and then they help them get work. That very same company, what they do is their team, I think it's their HR, their PR, and one or two other departments, they actually sit and they create scenarios. I think it's called, it's basically scenarios like this. And they say, okay, we've employed people and 2 people are. And then they're like, okay, this. And that's how they write their policy. I think once every quarter they come together and they're like, worst case scenario. And then they're like,
so
does our policy
cater?
Yes, they stress tested already. And then they're like, okay, does our policy, and maybe bring in a psychologist in one of those sessions, and maybe bring in a therapist, and maybe bring in somebody who is living with a mental illness. And then your HR team and those people, they break it down, and then you've got a sturdy policy. So that way it's not about Dapandula. It is about any human being who comes into this place is safe because the policy protects them. Yeah.
We could speak for
hours
and days and things like that. And I really appreciate it. I have a few rapid questions I want to ask you.
Yes.
So we can... There is, So let's go through the rapid questions.
Okay.
You are in a boardroom and someone says, we don't have a diversity problem here. Your face does what?
My face does this. My face does this, and my words would then be... This one is you'd have to be curious and ask questions, because most people who believe that there isn't that kind of, and I know it's meant to be quick, but most people who believe that is usually they're speaking from a place of privilege. So me, I don't have a visual impairment, so everything here is perfect. For somebody with a visual impairment, the keyboard doesn't have anything for Braille, for example. So I would ask more questions. Yes.
Therapy, a necessity or still a luxury now?
A necessity. And can I just give one quick example?
Sure.
Do you know Toto Wolff? Toto Wolff is a motocross billionaire. So he's got chronic depression.
And he's open about it.
He's very, very open about it. And he says that he believes every single person should go to therapy. And the reason why I bring Toto Wolff into the conversation is because people always think it is the downtrodden, the poor, the ones who are suffering, who have mental...
billionaire.
Yes, but you have one of the world's billionaires who actually has, chronic, it's a illness along those lines. But he said that every single person should go to therapy, and not only because you have a problem, but life is happening to us. You need to process.
Okay, next one.
Yes.
The colleague everyone knows is toxic, but nobody wants to confront. You walk in on Monday morning, what do you do?
Okay.
They compile their questions.
Yeah. Awesome. I would get to know them. And it's that, remember earlier on I was talking about that book that says we need to stop asking people what's wrong with you, and it's what happened to you. People are usually toxic because of some pain point.
Because nobody just wake up today and say, I'm feeling toxic today.
And also, and even if they wake up feeling that way, it's usually because...
things happen.
Yeah, layered.
Okay. One word Namibia needs to retire from the wellness conversation. Which word must be retired from the wellness conversation?
Sure. I would say toxic.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that you said previously. Because the thing is,
true.
Laz, I have toxicity. There is no human being. I know that
I do.
We all have toxicity.
So let's retire.
So let's retire it and rather speak about the behaviors themselves. Yeah.
Okay. A man tells you men don't need to talk about their feelings. You have 10 seconds. What will you tell that man? I'm telling you, men don't need to talk about their feelings.
Okay, I've got 10 seconds and I'll say that anyone who's having a human experience is also facing trauma and has some level of wounding and has some level of toxicity. And as a result, we all need to talk about our feelings because the only way to be able to process them is to bring them into the light.
Wow.
Yeah.
Best thing about being a woman in Namibia right now.
Right now
Right now.
is the fact that the voices of women are being amplified, and rightfully so.
It's because we have a female president.
That too.
It helps.
It helps. That too. But also because there are so many things that women are still carrying on our backs. You know, we are the Abba cross wearers. And I love the fact that right now, the voices of women are being amplified. And so the pendulum needs to swing a little bit hard on that side before we can come back here. It's like BEE. It serves a really good purpose. We need before we get the balance, we need to
Push it hard.
There we go.
Okay, in the same way, what's the hardest thing about being a woman in Namibia right now?
Is every single time a woman tries to speak about something that women are dealing with, it is being thrown with, but what about men? And the reason that I'm saying
I
that,
hear you.
yeah, is I read something that says if your wife comes to you and says, "Do you love me?" You don't say, "I love everybody." And this came around the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Yeah.
If so, in the same way that if a Black person comes to you and say Black Lives Matter, saying all lives matter is hurtful. And so when a woman is trying to tell you that this hurts or this matters, and you say, "But what about men?" I'm not saying forget about men. In fact, we need to be taking men along in all of these conversations. But in this moment in time right now, I'm speaking about a pain point here. And it's like
The pendulum is hard.
Yes.
We need to push it hard on that side.
And also I'm speaking about this one thing here. And instead of just listening and engaging here, you are already centering men once again in a very centered, in a very male-centered world.
So are you saying we must decenter men in our country for now?
I'm not saying decenter men. I am saying
Let's center
some
women.
voices need amplification. Yeah.
Okay. You can fix one thing in Namibia workplaces tomorrow. What is it? One thing that you can fix in Namibian workplaces. I'm sure you touched a lot. We touched a lot about this since we're talking about mental wellness and mental illnesses. What is the one thing that you will fix? You can fix.
I would stop that whole days thing. We're having a mental health day or mental health, whatever it is. I think that anything that's important should not be a day. It should be in policy. It should be in culture. It should be in conversations. It should be in the brick and mortar, in the cement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, this is interesting. Someone slides into your DMs asking for free advice. Your honest reaction.
My honest reaction is I highly suggest you go and see a trained professional because there is how much can happen in a DM. How will I ever be able to understand the depths of your pain? The layered. This is why it's therapy that's required because it's layered. Like you see that this conversation
could... Therapy is a process.
Exactly. And so I could be doing you more harm by giving you I'm even heading out to go eat KFC, which I don't really eat. But
I get it.
You know, I could be heading out and I give you something it's not
some takeaway advice.
Some takeaway advice that actually has it could actually end up being harmful at the end of the day instead of doing any kind of good. Wow. Yeah, that and secondly, I think we need to stop going into people's DMs and asking them,
because we don't DM lawyers.
Exactly.
And dentists.
That lawyer's going to DM you their consultation.
I've got a cavity in my tooth, doctor. What do you think I should do?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also it's having a certain level of respect for other people's human experiences. Number one, do I even have the capacity to hold space for whatever is happening in this conversation right now? But it's also like me just hopping into your DMs and saying, give me business advice or whatever it is. Like, I haven't even earned. Yes. And the thing is, I haven't even earned the right to ask that. And I used to work in sales a really long time ago. And, the one thing that you're taught in sales is all human interaction is asking for love. So sales is asking for love, even if it's for a client. And so what I was taught was, for every one ask love, you have to do 3 give loves, right? So you take that client out for a coffee. If you know that they are in advertising and you come across a really powerful campaign that took place, and be like, wow, Laz, I saw this, maybe you would, after having given 3 times, you ask once.
Finally, finish this sentence. Namibia will be truly inclusive when
we're brave enough to start believing people, when they're telling us what it is that they're really going through, and and when we stop performing care. Because there's a lot of there's a lot of performing. It's also like performing authenticity, performing, all of these things. Like we need to stop performing care and just being like, what can I really do? That whole thing of, I remember when we had a death in our family, and the family member whose child had passed away, we had a conversation, and later they came to me and they spoke about the fact that, what the hardest part of all of this is. And I asked what, and then they said, it's people who ask, what can I do for you? Because, that's performing. Because if someone wants to do something for you, Laz, they will come to your house, they will sit, they will cook, they will clean, they will whatever, and then they'll go. That is coming, and ultimately, or if I can give 2,000 as a, just do it. Stop.
Don't ask.
That asking makes people believe
or
that
if there's anything I can do.
Yes.
I'm
yes,
guilty of
just do the thing. Go to the person, even if it means sitting in silence and just being there, washing dishes, making coffee, helping them with a couple of their guests, And so it's the same with mental health. People are like, let me know if you're going through a hard time. I'm already going through a hard time. Like, how do I even let you know? It's believing me. It is when the hard time comes and I say, this campaign is really messing with my mental health. It's being believed and being like, listen, take 2 days. We're going to distribute the rest of this. Yeah. Because there's a lot of performing of care. There's a lot of performing of understanding. There's a lot of performing of empathy and compassion. The real things don't perform. They just do.
Okay. Finally, 2 questions you would like to ask me.
Sure.
2 rapid questions.
Okay. 2 rapid fire questions. The first one is a leadership one. And I think the biggest one is like, how do you maintain open-heartedness and compassion and empathy while still having to build and, all the other responsibilities and answering to stakeholders and shareholders and everything. And how do you maintain the balance between that and caring for your people?
So my approach to leadership and employment is informed, and I spoke about this to another guest the other day. And it's informed by how I saw my father was being treated by his white employers. Because I even do it even when they have workers on the farm, because my father was also a farm worker. My approach is always like, class, that person who's coming to you, that was your father. You follow? So and then I don't know whether it's a psychological thing. I'm like, I try my best to be there for my father, the employee. When
that's deep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's something, because I experienced and I saw it firsthand. And I saw how my father was. That my father said my father was a janitor at the school, at a white primary school. And I saw how these kids talked to him and how these teachers talked to him. And it was that whole contradiction of my father being this towering figure at home, this man that we fear. And then he goes to the office and he shrinks. That's something I could manage. So I always like, when I'm in an environment like this, I try not to be the white employer. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. And I'm glad you shared that, because we did a DEI workshop with one company, and there was this really, really big black man from the Zambezi, and he said that because he was always taught that white people, like you have to almost honor them and don't talk too much and don't backchat, and I think he was in a lower level role or position in the workplace. So he says that when he walks into a workplace, when it comes to his black colleagues, couldn't be bothered. The second, even a Gen Z white girl speaks to him, he
Shrinks.
becomes small. And it's safety. Once again, it's safety. He was told that the safest position to be in when you encounter this is that. It's like when you're told, don't look an animal straight in the eye. If I come face to face with a lion, I'll remember. That is what I'll remember. Survival will always kick in, even in the workplace. And then my second thing is, it's a legacy question. And without naming the actual businesses that you've built and everything else, what do you want to be remembered for?
In terms of businesses?
In terms of Laz the person.
I want to be remembered.
Businesses aside.
If anything, I want to be remembered as a good father.
Wow.
That to me, that's important.
Yeah.
Yes, I know I'm husband and whatever, but father, I birthed those kids.
Yes.
And for them to be here, it means that I need to help them to contribute to society and to this species we call human beings. And I'm trying to do it as much as I can to do that, because I have a template. I had very good parents. They were not perfect parents. It was false starts and tough starts. But towards the end of their lives, the last 10, 15 years of my relationship with my parents, I started understanding a lot of these things. I realized that, like my mom said, they did the best they could with what they had. And I was the reason why that's also important to me. When my mom died, there were easily more than 1,000 people at her funeral. My mom was just a retired nurse. I'm just saying, just a retired nurse, in inverted commas. But here's the thing: by my time my mother died, at her funeral, you know who was there? The president was there. The king of the Ondonga tribe was there. There were judges there. The attorney general that was there. The chief of the Namibia Defense Force was there. The chaplain of the Namibia Defense Force was there. There were countless lawyers. They did not know her. They knew me and my siblings. And for them to take the time to go and bury her, to say, Laz, Benny, Martha, all my 8 siblings, we are going to be there for you. Some of them never even met her. It's not about me. It's not about us. It's about. So they must have done something good with us for people to come and say, we are going to be there for you. So if I can be remembered as a good father, then I've done my bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
As you were talking just like about your mother and how, so many people showed up for you, and it makes me think about, the fact that it's a quote that says, your ancestors did not just hand you curses, they also handed you blessings. And sometimes we focus so much on breaking generational curses that we forget. And I also do believe that the person who you are, your parents, our parents, as imperfect as they are, had a huge role to play on that. So as much as they showed up for you, they showed up for her in some way too.
I was not just me, I mean me and my siblings, but we were merely the vessels.
Yes.
They basically showed up for her. We're the vessels.
Yeah.
They were using to honor. I mean, for somebody, my mother was buried in Olokonda, and my father was buried in Grootfontein. It's the same thing with my father. When my father passed away, the founding president called me the day. I remember very well the cemetery preparing my father's grave, and he called. He's never met my father, and he said, I would have been there, but unfortunately tomorrow I have a function. It was the day before his birthday on the 11th of May. And he said, I was going to be there. But And he spoke, the whole time he's talking to me, I'm trying to get him off the phone because I'm so uncomfortable. But then he spoke to me at length about, the importance of parents and remembering what our parents meant for me and whatever for us and all that stuff. And that's not because I'm special. It's because that my parents must have done something for this man who's revered all over the world to take the time to call me. And I'm not the closest in the 1,000 people that he knows who are close to him. I'm probably not in the 1,000. But he decided to pick up the phone and call me. And to me, that says a lot. And finally, I remember this friend of mine, Tebe Kalafeng. You know Tebe.
Yes.
He last year he celebrated his birthday by honoring his mother. He said, "Last, I'm going to honor my mother on my birthday. You need to come to Joburg." And he said, "I'm the sum total of what that lady has done for me." So it all the stuff, buildings, this is mega built. You understand?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's about relationships.
Yes.
It's about when people take their time out. I mean, you took your time out to come to me.
Okay.
And you said, "Last, I'll do it for you."
Because it's you.
And you said that. And so it must be that I mean something to you.
You absolutely
And
do.
I'm not self-taught. The values that I have come from my parents. And I just wish, and I just hope I could be there for my children.
Yeah. One of the reasons I even said, because it's you, is I remember it was many, many years ago, you did this thing at the Bank Windhoek Theatre School where you invited young entrepreneurs and stuff, and you had a conversation. And the one thing I took away, and this is why that Maya Angelou quote about people won't remember what you said or what you did, they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I just remembered the fact that you were so deeply authentic. I think you shared it was a business mistake or something that most people would not share to stay on a pedestal, and at the risk of dropping from it, you were like, but this is the honest, this is honest and that's truth. And I remember having read a book called Naked Leadership about leaders who are vulnerable and who are authentic actually retain, their workforce the best, and along those lines. And that is what I always remember you for.
Wow.
Funny enough.
Wow.
And not the accolades and everything.
Thank
It was the fact that you were just really honest about something most people wouldn't be honest about. I can't even remember what the mistake was or whatever. It was the fact that somebody in a position of power being willing to admit where they could have done better is, it's a thing of great beauty to witness.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a book.
Yes.
So we have this thing that we trying to do a book club to recommend books. What book will you recommend to me?
I would recommend a book called Black Tax, Ubuntu, or Burden. It's written by an author in South Africa called Nick Mhlongo, but it wasn't just him. He got a lot of other authors, and they basically talk really honestly and in a raw manner about black tax. And it's and the beautiful thing is they don't tell you what to think about it. They present to you the burden that it could be and the blessing that it could be and the Ubuntu that it could be. And you get to walk away and decide for yourself how you want to engage with it.
Oh, yes. Wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. So I would like to recommend The Traveler by my friend Tebe Kalafeng.
Okay.
So it's his journey throughout the African continent. So every time I encounter you, whenever we come together, whatever, it's always, you always take me onto this journey, into the journey of the self. Yeah. And although this one of Tebe is a physical journey, where he's describing going through Africa and things like that, I really want you to read that book. It's called The Journey.
I will read it, and then you owe me coffee so that we can talk about it.
Then we're going to talk about
Perfect.
It is always lovely to see. We don't see each other every day. We don't see each other every day. But when we see each other, you leave me a better person than you found me. Every time. And I just want to say thank you so much, and keep spreading your love and keep spreading the light.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.